Minds on Muscle community, welcome to the Fitness Pro Mentors interview series. If you want to hear some amazing interviews from amazing fitness professionals all over the world, please join our Fitness Pro Mentors private Facebook group. But today, let's make it rain. Everyone, welcome to today's episode. Super excited to have my good friend, an unstoppable entrepreneur and educator and trainer and overall human, Michelle Amore. How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm great, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me here.
Honestly, when I think about people that I want to have an interview, both from a business sense and a fitness sense, I mean, you are a two-pronged sword. I absolutely love it. So I'm really honored to have you here. What do you want to talk about today?
The weather.
Well, so
let's go to it. Let's talk about it.
amazing. So if anyone here who's listening to this, if you're listening to it, watching the live stream, or you're listening to this on the podcast channel, if you don't know Michelle Amore, you got to follow her. You got to check out her business. She's got some amazing stuff going on. She is an entrepreneur, co-owner of Precision Human Performance, which is one of Chicago's top one-on-one personal training and gym studios with some amazing equipment, which we're going to talk about. She has an educational company called Bioacademics. She's an associate professor. Is that correct?
Assistant professor.
Assistant professor, amazing trainer, and someone who's just a queen of physical activity. Michelle, what I would love to ask you about, honestly, Precision Human Performance. You guys have done such an amazing job of making that one of Chicago's top training studios. Do you mind telling everybody about Precision Human Performance and how it got to where it is today?
Sure, yeah. So right now, maybe to tell the end of the story first, we are a specialized private personal training studio that offers gym memberships, the highest quality personal training we can present to our consumers, and a facility where people can just really come and feel comfortable and cozy. And that's the one thing that they all say when they walk in, especially to the new facility, that the space just feels so great, and that's what we want people to feel when they walk in. So it's really transformed over time. Yet we've also kept some of the same things that Johnny and I really hold high as a priority. So it all started with wanting to get out of the big box clubs. It started with education. I started training years and years and years ago. And what happened was I was used to training athletes, right? So I got into general population at a big box club in Chicago. And I started training all of my clients just like I trained athletes. And people were passing out. I learned all the signs. They'd get dizzy, they'd black out. I'd get in a position to catch them. And it just wasn't working. So luckily I had really good management around me, and they introduced me to some education that helped me think through how to train people rather than just doing this cookie cutter dispensing of exercise method of training. One of those classes, I was sitting next to the most talkative, loud man I've ever met in my life. And luckily, he became my business partner. We both got to talking. He was like, "Hey, I got this business idea." And I was like, "Whatever, I don't know who you are." But then a few months later, I was like, I gotta call this guy. Like it was always something there in the back of my head, because he knew it was something I wanted. And he brought this idea, and we talked, and we realized we had a lot of the same goals. We had a lot of the same ambitions. Our work ethic, I mean, we were born to work, So we got together and created PHP. And it started off with 3 of us. It was me and him and another trainer and a rack of dumbbells. And I think we had one little GTS system. And little by little, we piecemealed together equipment from Craigslist and people who were giving it away, and filled this gym. I mean, it was so full of equipment, you couldn't even walk, right? And then we realized, people want to do things that don't involve equipment. So we got rid of them. We kept the things we liked. And it was like, okay, we had to weigh which ones we liked, which ones we didn't, which ones had the right mechanics, so on and so forth. and developed a really great team of people, from people that I've known throughout the years, people Johnny has known throughout the years, um, and just develop a clientele and a trainer staff and contractors that meshed really well together. So it became a little family, as it is today.
It's amazing. And I have two questions I want to ask you. I want to come back to the team development thing because I think that's a huge thing for people who are along the business continuum and are trying to grow and scale their business. Like, team is really where it's at. But I want to ask you, Amon, you throughout your time. I mean, I remember seeing the first photos of PHP and it was a bunch of orange mats, big open space, bunch of good cardio machines, a couple pieces of equipment, super, super open concept. And then like 2 years later, with some of the introduction of the Arthur Jones stuff and learning more about MedX and all these incredible machines, you were stacked. You had crazy Strive MedX machines and machines that nobody had ever heard of and all amazing. And then all of a sudden now you've kind of come back where it's not minimalist, it's not stacked with machines. You've got less machines, higher end machines, I would say. And it's kind of now this hybrid of the first two PHPs. What has it been like pivoting through the years of going this to this to this, and even some of your technical processes?
I think it mirrors our learning curve of not just the science behind exercise and mechanics and equipment, but the learning curve on how to build a business, grow a business, and appeal to everyone that walks in the door. Um, so it started off as, wow, there's these really cool concepts that I can use and apply to these tools, the equipment that we have in the gym, to my clients. So let's bring in as many of those really cool tools as we can. And it was kind of about more about us and what we liked and what we wanted. And then we realized it wasn't what everyone wanted, and it isn't what everyone needed. There were more things like just open space. There were more things like equipment that isn't so complicated, and maybe you just need to sit down and push on something, right? So that transformation from a million different pieces of equipment to and it was almost like a garage sale like feel, right? Everything looked different, nothing was the same color. So like I mentioned earlier about coming into the gym and feel comfortable, the just the visual when you walk in makes a difference on how someone feels. So we wanted to put all of the pieces that made people feel comfortable walking in. And part of it is uniform colors and things that you feel easy or feel comfortable using because it's easier to use, but also where the trainers have really great tools to use in their practice. So that's where we are now. And I think it's a really good place because we have a mixture of MedX and Prime and Cybax and things that we have kept that we really value as tools.
Now, of all the tools you have, I mean, MedX and Prime and all these cool machines, and I'm a big machine nerd like you are, and I absolutely love all those machines. But I mean, to you at this point, from a client demographic perspective, what constitutes a good machine, putting aside your preferences?
Mm, that's tough because you're talking about good and bad, right? It's more about what piece of equipment appeals to the largest group of people. And in a small space, you have to be able to have one piece go a long way. So the accommodations that one piece offers is much greater than a seated calf raise machine, for example, where you can't really do many things with it. You can attach tubing to it and do other things like have it as an anchor, but it just gets in the way. It takes up space. So the thing that we wanted was something that represents our thought process. And that, I guess, if I had to pick something that made a good machine, something that represents how we think through exercise and how our process is worked through. And Prime is a really good example of that process and that thought, that the thinking through exercise and the progressions of exercise, as well as the amount of range of motion and such that MedX offers. So
That's awesome. And the thing that I think I like about Prime, and we have the Strive machines because we're Canadian and cheap. But but
All right.
the thing I love about those machines is, I mean, depending on the number of cam settings they have, I mean, if the path of motion's good, which we talked about, some of them are good and some of them are not, you ultimately get a lot of different machines in one. And it makes it really efficient that if you want something that feels more like a heavyweight barbell, but you want to have the chest support on a row, you can make it feel like that. Or if you want to have something with that perfect Medex style profile, close to perfect, you can do that too, which is really awesome. I mean, this is more of just a personal question. Of all the machines you have right now, which one's your personal favorite?
Ooh, good question.
Be
Personal
biased.
favorite. You know, the MedX leg press is a pretty great piece in my eyes. And let's see what else. The lumbar is pretty great. If I had to pick a prime piece, that prime prodigy is pretty fantastic, and all the different things you can do on it.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Prodigy, like the single arm cable thing?
Yeah. Yeah, because they
Oh,
put two different pulley systems on it, and I've never seen that before. So
yeah.
you have like a 4-to-1 and a 1-to-1, and you can attach tubing to it and a bunch of different accessories. So it's a really great piece.
My wife will kill me for saying this, but when we move to our like forever long-term home, I've already committed us to one of those squat racks. That's the combination of the Selectorize and the squat rack for the basement because it's got the 2-in-1, the 4-in-1 pulley, and you can do barbell stuff. It's just like it's everything you need.
Yeah. See, we ran out of room. I would love to. I'll come over and use yours.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. Well, maybe outside of this crazy scenario, but you're always welcome here when the borders are open. Now, on that note, the more I've been talking to people about developing their practices, becoming superstar personal trainers, and forgetting about the exercise science side of things, I think that's extremely important. But I find that, and I want to talk to you more about this, a lot of trainers really struggle with communication skills and even just some of the kind of basic business acumen required to be a professional. You are someone who are you're in front of a ton of trainers, you are teaching and you're educating, and you've been doing this for a really long time. Stepping aside from the academic side of things, like from the exercise science and anatomy, what skills from a professional sense do you see trainers struggling with nowadays that they could really use to level up their practice and give them a fair go at this as a career?
Yeah, this is a really great topic. This is something that I talk to my students a lot about because I'm teaching students who are in 400 level classes, going, graduating, ready, they're done. So sometimes they have a really good book knowledge, but the ability to have that social interaction with people where you make eye contact and you're able to communicate your thoughts, take in what they're saying, process what they're saying, repeat it back in a way that allows them to know that you understand what they want, what their goals are, where they're trying to get in the situation that they're currently in. That's something that's really hard to teach people. And it's something that I think if trainers who are coming into this industry can learn how to better socialize with people, be real, be authentic, listen to the people you're talking to, not just hear the words that they're saying, but listen to it, take them in, see who they are as an individual. It goes a long way, a really long way. And that's kind of where I am right now. Everything with me now in my practice is very much about the psychological state people are in, and how to either keep them there or up that a level, make them feel better about wherever they are in life or just that day.
I
So
love that.
important.
It's so tough because I mean, in the world that you and I came from, like when I first met you, we were somewhere else in the U.S. and we were learning all this incredible exercise science, like really really challenging stuff that challenged our thought process. And personally, I don't know if you went through this, but for me at that time, I know you were just opening PHP. I really struggled. Like I was committed to becoming a teacher for this thing and becoming an educator and learning everything I possibly could, but I really suffered at the business development with my own professional practice. I focused so much on biomechanics, but learning how to like actually have a conversation with a client, hear what they're saying, modify the exercise not only for my own values and preferences, what I liked, but made sure I heard what they were saying and met their preferences, but also met the adaptations that they wanted. It was this tough dance, and it wasn't for years that I actually figured out how to like you said, communicate, eye contact, actually hear what they're saying. And it's a whole
Mhm.
world. I mean, I don't know. I just don't find trainers think of themselves, even if they are not, they really are entrepreneurs, because in that interaction, even if they're an employee or a contractor, when you're with a client, you're your own brand in that moment. And if you're in a sexy place, that's cool, that helps. But you are in charge of that 55 minutes. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it's about being your brand at all times. And I find the interaction with clients and people that I'm working with in this field it's never really been a hard thing for me to dive into. It's never been really uncomfortable. Um, the communication aspect that I've found a little more difficult is as a business owner communicating with other businesses, communicating with a network of people who are all trying to succeed as entrepreneurs, as business owners, who have that brick and mortar that they've invested in and need to pay rent on, and all of that. And how do we not become competitors and come together and try to build everyone else up? So that I found a lot more difficult than trying to communicate with clients.
I'm so happy you said that, because it was one thing I really struggle with too. Because I would try to market. I mean, I would say that, like you, we work with a lot of people who, I mean, I can't say that for sure. For us, we end up working in our town with a lot more people who have pains and injuries and are much more sensitive folks, rather than like the CrossFit style or lots of athletes nowadays. When people have a bad experience somewhere else, they end up finding us, and then they have a okay experience. And as such, I would try to market to other training studios, and I would try to market to chiropractors and physiotherapists, physical therapists, and try to build those relationships. And at the beginning, it was very like selfish and combative. Like I would talk about what we do, and they go, "Oh, we do that," and you go, "Oh, fiddlesticks," you know, it wouldn't go anywhere. But
Yeah.
that community. I mean, actually, on that note, trying to build professional relationships in your community. What's worked for you? What kind of things? What strategies have you found to be safe? I mean, you guys are knowledge powerhouses. How do you make sure you build those connections? They understand what you do to some tacit level, but you don't come across overbearing or competing.
Um, Presenting something that isn't, well, one, aligning yourself with people who are of the same mindset. So, I'm on the board of the Health and Wellness Committee for the West Central Association for the West Loop of Chicago, which is where we're located. So there are a lot of different business owners that we all discuss the aches and pains and problems and successes and things. So aligning ourselves with them, colleges and hospitals, and talking with people physically one-on-one, right? Like holding our cadaver classes at UIC and getting to meet the administration there, having them refer us interns, talking with people at other college, having them refer us interns, and that in turn builds our brand and who we are and gets our name out there, and it's helped quite a bit.
Now, on that note, one of the questions that someone asked me to ask you was, how the heck do you juggle so much?
Yeah, that's a constant struggle. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's rough. The older I get, the more it's a question of how much do I put towards my personal life and work. And that work life balance, I still haven't figured it out yet. It's always been a constant thing. I've worked morning to night since I was a teenager. So it's something I'm used to. And it's having good people around you, number one. I think if I didn't have the support around me, it would be extremely difficult. When I'm filled to the brims, having a couple of days ago, I have my business, I have Johnny that I can be like, hey, this is what's going on. And he kind of just says a word and the flame just goes down. And it's really nice to have people like that in your life that could do that for you.
Honestly, I will say this, and Johnny, I would say, is the exception to the rule in most cases, is that when people have asked me why I don't have a business partner, and in most cases, I haven't heard of many business partner relationships working out in the long run. But you and Johnny, as an entrepreneurial team, have really it's 10 years PHP has been around now, getting close to 11.
Getting close to 11, yeah.
So this is actually the beginning of the second question, but I mean, you and Johnny as an entrepreneurial team, both with similar values but also different values, How has that been working together through the decade to create PHP to what it is now?
Um, we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses, and I think they match really well. Don't get me wrong. There's been lows, there's been highs, there's been where we've not agreed on things, but our resolution, our ability to resolve problems together it's pretty good. um, I have a tendency to hold things in and let it build and build and build. Um, but then once we start talking, it's something we figure out how to work things out. We figure out how to get through the hard times and we make it happen, right? Rather than dwelling on things that are not part of the solution, and supporting each other, having good boundaries, knowing what the end goal is, and knowing what we want and who we are as individuals, and not trying to go outside of that, right? Like we know what our brand is. And the minute we try to bring other things in, we kind of have to stop each other and say, hold on, wait a minute. And we check each other that way, which is nice.
Is there an example of that you could share? Because I think that's a great thing you just brought up.
Um, ooh, can't think of anything off the top of my head. There are just so many ideas that come around, different apps, different types of practice, that one of us wants to bring into the facility or wants to do, and we realize it builds up excitement, and then you realize, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. It'll get in the way of something else. So
There's one thing for me over the last several years that has really changed how I look at a business, because I used to look at a person or their gym and I would see, wow, that person, they've got it going on. They're really bright and amazing. Or their gym, that's super cool. I absolutely love it. And I would say PHP is a massive part of this revelation change for me, but it's not so much who's running the gym, I would say, or the gym itself. It's the team that you get a sense of what really makes that brand, because you and Johnny you have a lot invested. You've got a lot of things that could go wrong, and no matter what, you're going to ride that ship. But when people come on to your journey and they join your journey, they're a part of your brand, your vision, your team, and you've got a massive team of people that are all going the same direction. That speaks so much more, in my opinion, than clients, because those people know everything. They know the clients, they know what's going on behind the scenes, they see most of the show, and the team really is an indicator of success, in my opinion. You and Johnny, I mean, in case someone has not said this, you guys have done a ridiculous job of building a superstar team. The people I've seen at your spot, some people, I mean, unfortunately have moved on to go do their own thing, but that's also an echo of how amazing you are, that you're setting people up that they could even do a version of what you do. I mean, do you have any secrets or anything you could share to other entrepreneurs who are thinking about growing a team that would help them when they're trying to do even just a semblance of what you've done?
I think so. We were lucky enough to acquire Aaron Westbrook as an intern, who then transitioned to trainer, who now is our operations manager, and so we're now a team of three for the most part. And I think finding people that you can trust, finding people who have the unteachables is really important, and finding people who want to be part of a community and want to not just walk in the door and leave when they're done training clients. It's not easy to find. I mean, we've had people come and go, and we've had people who have stuck around. COVID has made it pretty tough to do some of the team building outings and just go out and grab a beer type things that we would normally do. And those are the things that help us put work aside for a second and get to know each other as coworkers, as just fellow trainers and people that you work with. So that's one of the things I would recommend. Do things together outside of work, because everyone's in such a zone inside the gym that you step outside and you can let your guard down a little bit and talk about things other than training and equipment.
Which probably still happens after a couple beers anyway.
Unfortunately, shop talk happens, yes.
Now, one of the questions I know that one of our students who asked me to ask you, and I know she would kill me if I don't ask, Michelle, you're not only an entrepreneur, but you are also a female entrepreneur. You're someone who's really making some waves with what you're doing. Do you have any recommendations or anything that you could speak to for to other female entrepreneurs, even outside of the fitness industry?
Yes. Have confidence. Be real. Meet as many people as you can and be confident about what you bring to the table. I don't feel that being a female is negative in this industry. I used to feel that way. I used to be a little timid. Well, I don't want to go over there because I'm not part of the boys' club. Even in certain education organizations, there's a boys' club. And if you're not part of it, well, forget it, you're out, right? Um, I think if you understand what you bring and you don't get caught up in all that noise, you realize that you can accomplish more a lot of times than some men can because of what you bring. Because some of the people that I've interacted with, they're used to talking to guys. And in this industry, they'll just call them muscle heads, which isn't fair either. Um, but then they'll have a woman who's standing there talking and sounds like she knows what she's talking about and wants to say, and they'll listen a little bit closer. So I've found it to be a bonus. Now, when you're talking about contractors and people who are putting grout in your showers and doing your plumbing, that's where I call Johnny and be like, hey, you take care of that stuff. That's where the guy stuff comes in my world.
For sure. Now, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, gender aside, I think there's something awesome about being seen as the underdog in someone's perception, because if someone kind of, they're Columboing you, they don't think a lot of you, and then you open your mouth and you say a couple things, you ask a couple right questions, and you hit home with them right away. I mean, that impression, that first impression you make, it lasts. And, whatever it is they are think about you, all of a sudden it's put aside because now they have this anchor of, whoa, she knows what she's talking about. They know what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I was lucky enough to be a keynote speaker at a conference that came through Chicago, and it's things like that where I wonder if I would have gotten asked to do the keynote if I wasn't in the position I am and just everything I am as a person. And so I'm really grateful and thankful for it all.
So I got two last questions for you, and then we'll let you go because I know you are juggling so much that making time for this, I'm so honored for. In your opinion, what is your greatest accomplishment in this industry?
Mm. Um, Maintaining who I am as a practitioner and the clients that are part of my practice. I've been training the same people for 20 years, right? And there's something that they see in me that is value to them, and that keeps me going. That makes me keep wanting to be better and bring them more and help other trainers try to accomplish the same thing. But um, I think the consistency of clients gave me the confidence and ability to help build PHP, and those things leading to having a facility that houses so many clients for so many years now and so many trainers for so many years now. I mean, just the entire process is my most valuable accomplishment. The process that I've gone through to get where I am now, I don't think there's one specific thing I can say, because I don't think where we are now as PHP and where I am as a practitioner would be the same if that process didn't happen.
On that note, and I'm going to kind of put you in a corner here from what you just said there. I mean, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost. I mean, I've been doing this for 15, and I got a couple clients with me for 15 years, and I can resonate with that because it's something crazy to think, wow, this person's, spent this much time with me, more than their family in some cases. But if
Yeah.
there was a new trainer, I want to say new, but someone who's like 3 to 5 years in, and they're looking at what you've done, and they go, "Wow, I would love to have a PHP one day." But they're right now a nomadic individual doing their own thing, trying to build their business. Is there any principle or any recommendation that you would love to that you could share to a younger version of yourself to help you warp speed to where you are today?
Find someone who is in the position that you want to be in, and ask them a lot of questions. Ask them what they did right. Ask them what they did wrong. Ask them all of the mistakes they made. Ask them as many questions as possible, because that's something I wish I would have done. That's someone. I mean, I had people that have mentored me, but I didn't ask enough questions, and I wish I did. So definitely find someone who is that person that you want to mirror and ask questions.
I love it. Standing on the shoulder of giants, and I think it's okay to stand on different shoulders of different giants, because there's people that are in my world that I love to ask questions about specific things, but I would never ask them about questions about other parts of their life and you know what I mean. Certain things they've done really would help me spring forward. So I love that. I got to say, for anyone who's listening, and Michelle, you know this, but I saw you a few years ago starting to say unstoppable, unstoppable in all of your personal stuff. And my first tattoo on the back of my arm here, I got it when I was like 20, I don't even remember, like 15 years ago. No, 14 years ago. And I saw you posting it. I was like, oh, I want to say something, but I don't want to feel like I'm just like copying, because mine is Gaelic for unstoppable, and it was the same thing. And I saw you posting it. I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. I love it, because I think it resonates to the entrepreneurial fight of that, like, no matter what, you kind of got this like entrepreneurial farmer, hard worker thing where it's like, I'm getting up, I'm doing the work, it's not done, I'm going to make it happen. And if I got a problem, I'm going to fix it. And honestly, Michelle, when I think of you as a friend, as family, as a professional, you are unstoppable. And I'm just so honored to even know you and to even have this chat with you. So thank you so much for everything.
Well, thank you so very much.
Well, I hope when this crazy COVID world chills out, we can have a chance to meet up either there or here. Honestly, I was going to fly to Chicago and visit you this year. It was on the agenda. My wife knew it right before baby stuff. And anyway, so didn't work out. But we're going to make it happen.
It will happen. It will.
Awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Brandon.